This is the solution to the exercise in Lesson 15. The instructions are to create a new Windows Form project and then create 9 text boxes and a button, and take each of the values from those text boxes and put them into a two-dimensional array, then loop through that two-dimensional array, adding each of the elements of the array to a string that will then display in a message box. So let's go ahead and start by creating a new project. I want to make sure it's a Visual C# Windows application. We'll call this Lesson 15EX. And the first thing I'm going to do is put 10 controls, 9 text boxes, and 1 button. So I'm just going to paste some controls that I already had on my clipboard here. And you can see that I named each one TXT1, TXT2, TXT3, all the way through to TXT9, and then finally have a BTN Go for my Go button. So I'm going to double click this, and this is where all the work will really happen. Alright, I have to make a decision on how this is going to work. Basically, I need to make a two-dimensional array, and I want the first dimension to be the column, and the second dimension to represent the row. So let's go ahead and create an array called myArray. So it's going to be a two-dimensional array. With 3 elements per dimension. Now I have to go through the task of grabbing a value from each text box and placing it in to one dimension of the array. So I'm going to pause this and type all that out. So you can see my columns are going to be on the left-hand side, my first dimension, and my rows are going to be represented by the second dimension. So column 1, row 1 will have the value from txt1.txt, and all the way to the very end, the last column and row, the second or index number 2, element number 2, index 2 in my first dimension, index 2 in my second dimension would give me that third row, third column. So the next thing that I need to do is create a private local variable, and then what I want to do is loop through each of the elements of my multidimensional array and add them to my display text. So I might use some type of like a dash in between each one. So in order to do this, you'll recall from the lesson text and from the video that I'm probably going to need to use 2 for statements, or rather 2 iteration statements, for statements, in order to loop through this correctly. So here we go. Whatever you name this is really up to you. I'm just going to use I and J. Remember, we have to use get upper bound since we're using a multi-dimensional array. And this is just going to return back to us the number 2 for the highest boundary, which is 2. However, we want to go 3 times, so we'll need to add 1 onto this. And get our iterator in place. Okay. And then inside of this, we're going to create another for statement, this time for J. In J, will work for the second dimension, dimension 1. Okay, that looks right. So the next thing we need to do, as we're looping through each of these each element in the multidimensional array, is to add them to my display text. So here we go, display text plus equals my array I, J, and then we're going to add just a dash in between them so it's visually more appealing. And then finally we want to display the result in a message box. So we know how to do that. Okay. So let's see how this works. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and just, whoops. We need to, alright, here we go. Then we're going to click our button, go, and you can see it works correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is the solution to the exercise in Lesson 15. So I hope you were able to get your hands wet with arrays, and you learned a little bit more about them in this lesson. Thank you.